Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of Words of Inspiration. In life, we have many challenges, and many things need advices and inspiration from other people. That is why Words of Inspiration is an online platform where the present motivates the future. In this fast-changing world, we are now getting ready for a new normal. And today, we are hearing from an amazing personality how to achieve our dreams in this new world and in this new normal. She is quite an exemplary character, also known to her close friends as a walking encyclopedia. She's the youngest PhD holder in South Asia who graduated at the age of 25 years from the University of Peradeniya in the field of cybersecurity. She holds 10 years of experience in her academic career and also a decade in media as a presenter of Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. Currently, she is the head of Computer Science Department at the National Institute of Business Management and was the Toastmasters International Leadership and Training Institute Chair of District 82 of Sri Lanka for the years 2017 and 2018. Currently, she serves as the president of the NIBM Toastmasters Club. She was also awarded the Emerging ICT Leader of the Year National Excellence Award at Infotel 2017. She was internationally recognized at the Top 50 Women Awards 2018 for her leadership excellence in information technology. She was also awarded the Youngest Chartered Professional Fellow Manager at CIPM Awards Ceremony 2019. She serves as a task force member of the policy formulation of the new education reforms of Ministry of Education, Sri Lanka. She is also a keynote speaker at many national and international forums who empowers youth and women in the fields of leadership, communication, and engineering. Who better is there to motivate us? She's an academic, a researcher, a journalist, and a scholar. Please welcome Dr. Buddhima Hansini Subasinghe. Dr. Buddhima, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Your story is quite exemplary. And when I look at this list, I feel like so much strength, so much passion has gone through this. So every long story, every successful journey has a first step. How was that first step influential to you? How did your childhood influence you to become who you are today?
Well, yes, if I take a look at my journey, Sajani, I started schooling when I was a 2.5-year-old kid. And that's where it all started. My parents, my mom used to work at the Ministry of Higher Education of Sri Lanka. My dad worked at Sri Lanka Customs. And so they wanted to push me to a school as sooner as possible. And there I entered school at 2.5 years old. And life was actually challenging at school. And even preschool, even primary school, life became very challenging because I was bullied big time. Why? Because I was the youngest kid in the school. And I was not very much motivated at the beginning because there were so many instances. I should tell you that, I was kind of fed up with school. I wanted to stay back home. I used to cry in the morning saying, I don't want to go to school today. So this was the kind of life I had back in the days, and that's where I started. But there was this one prize giving that really changed my life. This is when I was in the grade 2, third term, before I moved to grade 3. I still remember I was watching, just seated right at the back of that audience. I didn't have a single certificate. I didn't have a single award. Neither did I have a proper report card to carry back home that day. And my parents were also in the audience. And I was watching how the other little friends of mine walk up to that stage, getting awards, getting certificates, being recognized, wow, I mean, they got recognized from amongst their friends, family members, teachers, and their colleagues. And they were recognized to a level that they became stars of the school. So I thought, wow, why can't I be like that? I've considered myself as hopeless. I've considered myself as useless. And I've considered myself the kid who gets bullied all the time. And I was this person who was thinking that I wouldn't have a life. And I've almost given up on everything back then. But then I was thinking, wow, those kids are being recognized, appreciated, acknowledged. What a beautiful life are they leading? And I came back home that night with not the same Buddhima, carrying not the same Buddhima back again, but it was a total different self of mine. I decided that I need to be committed, dedicated to change my life. And I realized big time that education was the only weapon that I can use to stand up for myself, to stand up for what I wanted to speak up for, to stand up for my life. So ever since then, I realized that I need to put in more work and commitment and dedication to my studies. So I started working very hard, and I still remember grade 3 first term examination. I got almost 6 to 7 prizes, class prizes for that term, and I was the first in the class. And I got so much appreciation from my parents, from teachers, and I was so happy, proud to see those happy tears of my parents' eyes during that prize giving ceremony of that year. So I thought, wow, I've won life. I'm not useless anymore. I'm not worthless anymore. I can become someone. So I think that motivation really helped me keep the next steps forward in my life. And the following grades, I started working very hard because I thought now I've achieved a particular status, a particular level. So my mom used to always motivate me, encourage me. You're great. You've done great, and you can become even greater. So this is something that she always says. And there's another thing that she always says. She keeps on telling, when I ask her, Ammi, shall I do this? Do you think I can do this? She would always say, darling, there's nothing that you can't do in life. These are the exact words that my mom says. I think that inspiration you get from parents really motivates you, encourages you to keep that very next step forward. So there I was in grade rather ordinary level examination when I was only 13 years old, and trying to figure out, oh my gosh, which subjects am I going to select from my O-level exam, and am I going to do 8 subjects or 10 subjects, and can I even do it at the age of 13? But I somehow summoned up my courage and worked on it, and passed my ordinary levels with flying colors. And then I moved to advanced level examination. And then I had a major question. Okay, now A-level exam really prepares you to get into university. One dream that I had since I was a little one was to become a medical doctor. I always wanted to wear that stethoscope around my neck, and then go around the hospital, serve patients, be around them, support them, to really have a smile on their face, get back home, being cured, and all those dreams were dreams that were filled in my life. But unfortunately, with all the research I did, I found that I was a student who went to an international school. And unfortunately, back then, we didn't have the opportunity to get into a national university to continue to pursue our higher studies in terms of medicine. So I thought to myself, fine, is my life going to stop here? Is this going to be the only thing that I would want to do in life? So I took up biochemistry, physics, and applied ICT for my advanced level examination, because I thought applied ICT, computer science, is definitely going to be the future, and whichever that field I take up, it's going to be something that I will have to learn for me to become someone in life. So with that determination, I took up applied ICT with all the other biostream subjects, and there I joined to Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology to pursue my higher studies in software engineering, and also Curtin University of Australia to pursue my higher studies in computer science. And then I decided that having done my bachelor's, a double bachelor's with flying colors, I need to really pursue that target of becoming a doctor. So that's where I kept the step to pursue my higher studies, postgraduate studies in my PhD, the doctoral studies at University of Peradeniya. I did it multidisciplinary with University of Moratuwa and Peradeniya, but I was registered with Pera, and I majored in computer science, cybersecurity, and there I was 24 years old back in 2017 when I completed my PhD, and I was able to keep a record, and here I am talking to you in this forum today.
Yes, Dr. Buddhima, I believe that was truly inspiring because there are so many students, over 8,000 students in Colombo, I believe, who go to international schools and they face the same problem, the same crisis. And sometimes they wonder if their future is blocked because of this. But no, I believe your speech and how you portrayed that, it will be an amazing motivation to those students as well, because they will listen to you and they will make their life better. If you remember, Dr. Buddhima, the first time that I met you was about 7 years back. And it was not at a forum like this, but it was actually at Rupavahini Corporation. It was very exciting, and I looked up to you because you perform with such charisma and such confidence. How did you get into the media with all of these academic things that you've been doing? Because doing a program in media requires a lot of dedication and a lot of time.
Well, yes, that I got into media by accident, I would say. This is how it all started. I've been continuing my studies at Sri Sambodhi Vihara English Dhamma School ever since I was a 6-year-old kid. And even to date, I teach Abhidhamma there for the past 15 years. So that's the place where I got into media, especially from the events that took place in the Dhamma school, along with the starting of the Buddhist channel. So one fine day, I still remember I was waiting to go back home after Dhamma school finished. And there was this director of news who walked up to me and asked me, Nanga, would you like to take up the opportunity to do the news today evening? Because all the 3 ladies who are supposed to read news today are not available. I thought, wow, I've always wanted to be a newsreader and never got the opportunity. I've been going to Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation for interviews, but back then I was only 17 years old, and I'm supposed to be at least 20 plus to read news at Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. So I got that opportunity at a younger age, and I thought, wow, I need to grab it. And then first thing I asked him, is it going to be in Sinhala or English? And then he was like, you will have to do it in Sinhala because we only have a Sinhala bulletin at the Buddhist channel. And then I thought to myself, I need to summon up the courage and grab this opportunity because this is something that I always wanted to do. I took up the challenge, and I still remember going to places and with that script and trying to memorize the script as much as possible to make sure I do it right. So I successfully did it. And then I was offered the opportunity to become the first English Buddhist news bulletin producer and presenter of Sri Lanka, starting it at, the Buddhist channel. And while I was doing programs at the Buddhist channel for about 2.5, 3 years, I got the opportunity to join Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. They invited me for the Dhamma and Geo program at Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. And thereafter, I joined Rise and Shine, which I have been doing for the past 10 years, close to now. And so that has been my media career, and it has always been a passion. And I've been enjoying it. It was something that I did as a part of my hobby, and it has really helped me put up a smile on my face, being with people, meeting different personalities and interviewing them, knowing a lot of people became a big part of my life. Because Sajani, one thing I'd like to highlight is your net worth is, after all, your network. So I think I built that network with the media that I was a part of. It could be print media, it could be electronic media. And I think I've achieved a lot with the people around me as well. Yes.
Definitely, Dr. Buddhima. In life, the people we meet and the experiences we make are what makes us better people. Of course, speaking of all these opportunities that you have been given, and also not just media, when I went through your speaker profile, you have done so many things. Now, question a lot of children ask is, we have so many things to do, will that affect our academics? Can you elaborate something to those children, some advice, how they can make up their courage to understand, yes, we can do this along with our studies, because you are someone who has done that.
Well, yes, I think now when I take my life back to my school days, Sajani, I took part in, if you would believe or not, I did dancing, I did music, I did arts, and I also did sport, right? I did netball, and I also did athletics in school. I did chess, and I did carom. And you know, as indoor sports and as outdoor sports, netball and athletics and so on and so forth. So I was a BCB in school. I used to be called the BCB in school as well. But one thing I realized back then in school is you get all of these opportunities when you are in school. And I think now when I look back to see, I wouldn't be able to do all that because I have more other responsibilities in life right now. So when you have those opportunities right in front of you, why don't you grab them and make most out of it? Sajani, you have 24 hours a day. I also have 24 hours a day. We can't actually ask for more. But the thing is, my life, I think I've been making time. I openly say I make time. How do I make time? I make maximum use of the time that's right in front of me. For example, if I'm asked to do an assignment or if I'm asked to work on something, I make sure that I'm super focused and I do it and I finish it, and then I focus on the other thing. But most of the time, what our friends out there do is we keep procrastinating on things, and we don't take it up at the right moment. We don't prioritize things in our life. And what do? We keep complaining that we can't do this, we can't do that. And finally we end up ending school thinking, oh my God, what I have even been doing for the past 13 years in this school. So why do you want to have regrets in life like that? After all, because you have the opportunities given to you. A school is a place where it educates us not only with knowledge. I've been highlighting this clearly for the past few weeks as well in certain forums. Education is a facilitation of learning, Sajani. It's the acquisition of knowledge, values, skills, habits that really combines together to make you a complete person. So that's what happens in school. But the thing is, sometimes we think that it is only the book knowledge that we gather from books that make us a great person, that make us a complete human being, which is wrong. That notion, I think we need to completely take it away from us, because what really makes us a great leader is where you transform that knowledge, skills, values, habits, everything that combines together into wisdom, and you apply them to your life, and where you tackle situations in the best possible way. Now, for you to do that, you have to take up those opportunities that are in front of you, because an opportunity in life, Sajani, will never come twice. Will never ever come twice. At school, when I was asked to become the netball captain, if I didn't take it up, it would be gone forever, right? So the opportunity, I still remember, I was the youngest head prefect in school, and becoming a head prefect in school is not easy. I was a junior prefect. Life was hectic, difficult. I was a senior prefect. Life was even hectic, even difficult, because with all the bullying that I was going through, I summoned up the courage to make sure that I was able to lead a group of individuals. And when you're a senior prefect, the responsibility is more. And then still, the school had that courage that they knew that if they give me the responsibility to become the head prefect, I would be able to take it up and do my best. So they gave it. And also, Sajani, I'd like to mention I am the only head prefect who served the school for 2 years, being the head
Wow.
prefect. And I still have a special letter given to me by the principal. So yes, I think that was all because I portrayed visionary leadership back then in school time also, with all the academic work I was doing, excelling in them as well, and also excelling in extracurricular activities in the equal manner. It was not an easy task, I have to tell you. But the secret behind all of that was pure focus. Unless you're mindful about what you're doing in life, unless you're focused about what you're doing in life, you will never be able to achieve the so-called fruits, the results that you expect to achieve in life. So that has always been the formula that I have used. Even today, if I want to do something, I would always have a plan, and I would take it step by step, and I would have that focus, that right focus and mindset for me to do it, and there I would achieve it. So within a short time span, achieving something was rather a talent that I gathered. That talent I got was from focus, from pure focus simply.
Yes, Dr. Buddhima, it is true what you said. Most of the younger generation is more or less prone to procrastinating their things and thinking, yes, we can do that tomorrow, or we can do that next month. And in the end, it doesn't become successful as if it were, if you had it planned. Now, you mentioned that focus is really important. This is a really important fact. Now, how can we focus better on our studies or on extracurricular and studies? How can we train our brain to be more focused, in life other than wandering around in other places?
Well, Sajani, now how you need to keep focus is, for example, let's say you're supposed to study for your term test. Let's say you're a grade 8 or 9-year-old student who is listening to me right now, for example, right? And you need to study for your term test. That's the immediate thing for you to do. And you need to have a focus on your ordinary level examination that's going to come up in the next few years to come, right? So in my life, I keep targets. I have long-term goals and I have short-term goals. For long-term goals, I have a plan. I have a clear-cut plan. For example, let's say if I was supposed to finish my ordinary level examination in grade when I was 13 years old, okay, by the time I was 10, 12, 10, maybe 8, 10, I kept planning for it. And every single thing I did, every term test I did was focused on that ordinary level examination that I was to sit when I was only 13 years old. So I still remember I have a paper pasted on the wall with the plan for the day and for the week and for the year, Sajani. So this was little me, and I used to have a diary which I maintained since I was a kid in school, and I still maintain a diary. And I think it's very important to be a person who prioritizes things in life and be a methodical person, so that it's gradually a step-by-step process for you to do and achieve what you want to achieve, and eventually the trophies and awards will come after you. You don't really have to run after them, you see. So I think purely how you need to manage focus is you have to have a plan for your professional life, a plan for your personal life. You need to have long-term goals. You have to have short-term goals. And for long-term goals and short-term goals, both, you need to create a plan. And you need to have a day plan, which I even follow as at today. For example, for this day, this is my to-do list. This is what I've got to do. These are the things I need to complete at the end of the day. Now, Sajani, I'm a person, when I go back to sleep, I need to sleep with satisfaction that I've completed these tasks for the day, which I was supposed to complete, which really amounts to that long-term goal or the short-term goal of mine. Now that's a motivation really that has helped me to keep the very next step for the following day. I need to wake up happy, looking forward to do whatever the next leftover tasks to complete my short-term goal and the long-term goal. So that's exactly the formula that I've used to keep myself focused, to prioritize things in life, and to make sure that I'm a methodical person, so I wouldn't really get distracted from certain other things in life, so that my focus remains on where I want to go. Because after all, there are two important days to life that I truly believe, Sajani. One is the day you were gifted to this world. Second is the day you find the meaning why. So if you find the purpose of your life, you have a target, you have a goal, you have a vision to achieve yourself in life. And each time you achieve it, you need to set up the next target, the next goal for your life. That's what keeps us going in life, because we don't want to be boring people, zombies kind of people, where we are good for nothing. You see, we need to have a going for our lives. So to do that, you need to become a person who keeps targets and have a plan set to achieve those targets in life.
Yes, Dr. Buddhima, I believe you've already motivated our listeners that their birth date is already been given to them and they need to find the date that their life finds its purpose. So I believe that was truly inspirational and motivational. There's a small thing I'd like to ask you. Since you've overcome so many challenges in your life and you've overcome so many, you've accepted so many opportunities and you've managed to succeed through them. Now, when it comes to a challenge, most of us are scared about how the challenge's results might be. We either think too much or we don't think anything. There are two types of people. One of those people think too much, and sometimes the other people don't think so much and they just jump into challenge. Neither of these, I've heard, are successful. So how do we manage this challenge standing in middle ground?
Well, yes, it's a very interesting question. I think, Sajani, as a leader, one thing is one important aspect we need to really do and work on is to discover our true potential. We need to become an explorer in life and discover what our potential is. To do that, you have to take challenges, because challenges make our life interesting. For example, COVID-19 has taught us many lessons, has taught us that we can't do everything for money, and money is not everything. It taught us that there's much more things that we need to value than the wealth that we had. The true wealth is definitely not all the cash we collected or all the things that we collected in terms of tangible things in life, but it was all about humanity. We learned it in the hard way, and I think we need to understand that we need to take that visionary leadership forward. So answering your question, how we need to think positive about things and take that step forward rather than worrying about things in life is whenever a challenge is thrown at you, just like COVID-19, we saw there is a set of people who every day sits in front of a TV and keeps counting the number of people who got sick, ill and cured in this country, in that country, or be it Sri Lanka or whatever the case it is. But once again, there's another bunch of people who are engulfed in fear. We saw it.
Of course, yes.
Into Cargill's or Kiehl's or any other supermarket, we saw how people were gathering into queues and collecting food items to everything. We saw the fear that people had. I mean, one thing we have to understand is if we let fear engulf us, Sajani, we wouldn't be able to keep that next step forward as a leader. That's
yes.
Important thing we need to remember, because now the country is open and we have been given the opportunity to take the step out. But if we are going to be fearful about what's going to happen next, and if we are going to be fearful as to what the life has in store for us, and if we are going to be fearful to take the next step of our life and do nothing but only keep worrying at home, definitely we would not be able to become successful people. The only people who became successful in this crisis period really were the people who grabbed it as an opportunity and made use of COVID-19 as a blessing. They saw that it is a blessing for them to change themselves. They saw that it was a blessing for them to make a change to their lives. For example, if I take in IBM, the National Institute of Business Management as an example, 2 years back, Sajani, the Director General of IBM, Dr. D.M.A. Kulasurya, had a vision. A great visionary leader he is, I would say, because he had a big vision for all of us to achieve great heights as a university, to go international, to be like an international university, to get international students to join a Sri Lankan university like the NIBM, and all that. So he started working on it. And when he put the vision on the table, sometimes certain people agreed, certain people did not. We thought, why not we continue the work as we have been doing? But still, he motivated us. He always put that idea in us and inculcated in us that we need to change and we have to move forward with the fast moving world. We need to keep a step with technology. So what happened? A team got together, a set of visionary leaders got together and worked hard to come up with a learning management system, a digital platform where anyone can access from anywhere in the world. Anybody can get connected from anywhere in the world and do their work remotely. So we have remote campuses in Colombo, Kurunegala, Kandy, Galle, Matara, all these places, and the National Innovation Center. Altogether 6 centers remotely working together in this pandemic period without any issue. Why? Because we had a visionary leader who kept that step and who took the rest of the leaders joining hands with him to achieve that goal. So I think we were able to successfully do that. So that's exactly why 12,000 students of NIBM are being served this very moment without any issues, without any problems. When the issue arose at that point where the students didn't have enough data for them to carry on their tasks, what did we do? We provided enough data for the students to continue their studies. So there are solutions to every problem in life. And you have to become a solution seeker rather than a problem seeker. So what happens in life is, Sajani, coming back to our personal life, sometimes when we have a problem in front of us, okay, COVID-19, what am I to do? When there is a problem in front of us, we keep thinking, we keep worrying about that problem, and there are 2 problems at the end of the day. So what happens? We become that person just who keeps worrying about it and don't come up with a single solution, but only keeps crying and nagging, and there is no success in that person's life. Just like you rightly mentioned, there is a bunch of people like that. And at the same time, there's a bunch of people who are leaders, but they do not prioritize things. They do not become proactive to immediately plan, look into and see what's going to happen next in the next few weeks. What are the things we need to immediately get together and do? Instead, they do something else. Then what happens? When wrong decisions are being made instantly, you don't know what your life has in store for you. So then you fall into trouble. So I think it's very important as a visionary leader, you need to master crisis management. To master crisis management, you need to have a vision before crisis. How are you going to work around the worst case scenario? Expect the unexpected. Work for the worst case scenario. Be a leader that works with a team. Show the team as to what the future is definitely in store for us. Just like the Director General of NIBM did for his team. We got together, we had discussions, and we were motivated. And instantly when this problem came up, 15th of March, we launched the NIBM Digital Campus. And there we were, standing like a mountain and flowing like a great river, providing education, providing all the facilities for our students, for the staff, and giving all the benefits for the staff to continue their work in a smooth manner. When there were many companies who were not able to provide the salaries for their employees, many companies who were not able to keep their set of employees together, and they had to ask certain employees to resign. So when there were many companies who couldn't carry out the work, there we were, standing like a great mountain. So I think it's purely the vision that you need to develop and you need to have a proper plan in place and not be the person who takes instant wrong decisions. It could be in your life, professional or even personal, which can ruin your life. But instead, be that person who makes a change to your life by accepting the change as it is, and making it a part of your life, because change is always there and we have to accept it.
Yes, Dr. Buddhima. I believe that you've motivated all of us to take up these challenges, being scared and not thinking that this is a barrier, and to become solution seekers rather than problem seekers. I believe that is a beautiful, beautiful message. Now, today, it's the new normal, and students are kind of worried about what is going to happen to their future. But things like this that you have said is actually going to motivate them so much and make them feel more happy, bring a smile to their face. Dr. Buddhima, now challenges come to us, we take them, we solve them. But sometimes we expect things from society, but the society treats us in a different way. What I mean is there are social stereotypes, and sometimes children are scared to break through them. How can we motivate these children to not stop their dreams and to pursue their dreams?
Well, yes, very true, Sajani. I have also been a person who has stereotyped myself back in the days. I thought I am the youngest doing this. I'm the youngest to do this. So can I do it? Will I be able to get it done? Will it be possible to take it up? So those were a billion questions that ran across my mind. And I still remember my mom, like I told you, and my dad were people who always gave me that courage, that motivation. My mom used to always actually tell me, you've come all this far and you're definitely not going to turn back. You've come all this far with hard work that you've done, with a lot of commitment, with a lot of dedication to what you're doing, and definitely you're not going to change back just because of your age. My mom used to always inculcate this in me: age is just a number. It's just a number, and it's just a symbol. You are who you are. You can do great things. You're meant to do great things, and you definitely can do it. And she always motivated me. My dad always motivated me, helped me keep my next step forward. I think that courage, that strength, for you to get it, sometimes you need somebody to help you out, to motivate you as well. So here comes the aspect of role models. My parents were always my role models, but I have one particular role model whom I have been always looking up to, and that is Professor Stephen Hawking. Each time there has been difficult moments in my life, especially at the age of 24, when I was supposed to complete my PhD. Life was not easy. When I was 22, I had to actually take a break from my job. I used to lecture at Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology. I took that break because I wanted to complete my higher studies, doing it full time to keep a record in South Asia. So with that determination in mind, I had to make a strong decision, take a big risk in life, to give up a job. It's not an easy decision to take, Sajani, especially in this period of time. Giving up on a job, you wouldn't know when you would get a job. So back in the days, I did it. I took it as a challenge, and I focused on my PhD full time, worked very hard. I still remember every day going to sleep, one thing I would think is to complete my PhD, to be graduated in front of 3,000 people, 3,000 graduates at the University of Peradeniya in the largest ever graduation ceremony in Sri Lanka. To walk in front, to the stage. So that moment, I used to imagine that exact situation every single moment, every single day, to motivate myself to take up that step to move forward. So speaking of Professor Hawkins, each time there has been a barrier, each time there has been a struggle for me. as a girl especially, I think I have to be open about the fact that we have a life that's set up for us. Like, for example, you finished your ordinary level exam. Okay, fine, you're done with your O levels, move to A levels, completed, get into university, you're done with a degree, and here you are supposed to get into a job and get married and have kids, right? So parents to relatives to people around us to neighbors to everybody have so many questions when you don't pursue those steps according to that life that has been set up for you, especially as a girl. So what happened was, one thing that I used to always think to myself is, Buddhima, do you really have to do things according to what all the people around you say? Are they going to decide what's in store for you in life? Definitely no. So I had a dream, I had a goal, I wanted to pursue it. So I wanted to really go after it and achieve it in life. So speaking of Professor Hawkins, each time when such struggles came, when people used to sometimes demotivate me, asking, when are you even getting married? Are you planning to stay alone? Or are you not going to continue your occupation at sleep? You had a good job and you're just going to let go of it? What on earth are you going to do in your life? So people had so many questions, Sajani. So I had answers to those questions, and I knew what I was doing, and I had a focus. So I think each time when such struggles came forward, especially as a girl, when there was peer pressure, when there was pressure from parents, family, relatives, all that, I used to reach out to my role model, Professor Stephen Hawking. I asked this question from myself: if Stephen could do it, why can't I? If Stephen could do it with all the difficulties he went through, when he couldn't move an inch, when he couldn't speak a word, yet he was able to complete his PhD at a very younger age, why can't I do it? So I always questioned myself, and I think that supported me to really become a role model for many more people out there to achieve things in life and to become a different person, a unique person.
Yes, Dr. Buddhima, that was truly inspirational. I really loved how you have been motivated by somebody else and you're motivating the other children from being who you are. We really respect you for that. And we have an interesting question from our audience today. Our audience is inquiring you, since you were so young, and you are very young, extremely younger than the rest of the staff probably when you went to work, how did you manage to work with the seniors, and how did you manage to make a good relationship with them?
Good question, Sajani. Simply, I just have one word answer for this. It's emotional intelligence. That has really helped me achieve it all in life, because even when I started working at Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, I was the youngest graduate back then with a double degree, joined the staff, youngest in the staff. I had to teach the 4th years and the 3rd years who were way elder to me, and life itself became a challenge. Let go of staff who are elder to you. The people whom you're going to teach are way elder to you. So imagine what the life is like. So it was a challenge, but I took it up. I really worked hard on it, and I also became one of the best lecturers there, where students really loved to learn from me. So I was very happy to see how they grew, and after all, they achieved their degree at the end of the day. And also when I moved to University of Peradeniya, once again I was the youngest there, staff member at the CSE department in the Faculty of Engineering. So and here I am heading the School of Computing at the National Institute of Business Management, once again working with a lot of staff members from different faculties, from different divisions and all that. So life is a challenge every day, Sajani, every single moment of my life. But emotional intelligence, how has it helped? I'm not asking people to go and read books on emotional intelligence. It's a very simple thing for you to practice. Be it your professional life, be it your personal life, all you need to do is to think a little bit more about what the other person is going to feel. If you say this, how are you going to manage the emotions of your team? If you speak like this, how effectively are you going to give an opportunity for another to voice out their opinion in front of you? Are you the person who is only going to voice out your opinion and get it accepted by your team? Are you ready to take up opinions of the others? So these are little things that we can always practice, which would make a big difference in our life as a leader. Because what happens is, in most cases, sometimes leaders become very authoritative. They take up authority in a very different manner, and they expect people to work for them like, people who are slaves or people who should be working under them. No, this is actually, if you are given leadership, I think you have to take it as servant leadership. You have to take it in a way that you need to do any task. You have to be ready to do any task, even of your peers, when that is necessary to be done, to support one another. Give that peer support, give that chance, that opinion for another to speak up, voice out, and also respect one another. If only you learn to respect yourself, Sajani, you would learn to respect another. All of us, we long respect from the others, don't we? We expect, be it in our personal life or professional life, we expect our parents to show respect to us, our little brothers and sisters to show respect to us, our elder brothers and sisters to show respect to us, and we expect the staff members to show respect to us. But if we don't respect ourselves, and if we don't respect the people around us, we can't expect people to respect us back. It's something that you earn, which you can never get out of anything what you have, unless you practice this valuable quality called emotional intelligence, where you start thinking about another and looking to the other's lives, getting to another person's shoes before you step into making a decision in life. So that's something that I've been practicing, and it has worked very well, and it has supported me so far. And definitely I know that it's going to support me for the rest of my lifetime in my career as well.
Yes, Dr. Buddhima. Now I understand why your friends might be calling you a walking encyclopedia, because you seem to know a lot about every single category or every single question that I'm asking, and it's making me even more excited to ask more and more questions from you. Now today, in this society, we have so many students who are scared to take up challenges, to take up opportunities, and you've done a marvelous job today in motivating all of those children. So what would be a message that you would like to give to all the children who are having big dreams in their lives? What would be the one thing you would like to say to them?
Sajani, dreams can be achieved, can be accomplished only when the right action is taken towards its achievement. So to achieve dreams in life, one important thing you need to remember is that you need to work hard, be committed, be motivated about what you're doing. Have a plan for your life, have a vision for your life, have a goal for your life. In the next 5 years, what am I going to do? Where am I going to end up? What's my life going to be like? Imagine. Imagination is very important. But if only you're going to imagine the rest of your life, you would be dreaming big time. But to make that imagination to come into reality, you need to work hard. To work hard, you need to have a plan. And step by step, you have to take one step at a time to achieve your dream or goal in life. And one thing I'd like to also highlight is you need to do what you love and love what you do. Because there could be a boy who wants to pursue a different career, maybe in sewing, maybe a girl who wants to take up a different career to become a mechanical engineer. So if that is your dream, right, grab it, make most out of it, and do it, and become that person whom you want to be. Don't be a person, or don't try to push yourself to be the person who other people around you want you to become. You need to take leadership to your life. You have to take that pen and write the story of your life. Because the moment you don't do it, the person who is sitting next to you will grab that pen and will start writing the story of your life. We don't want that to happen, don't we? Sajani, do you want your story to be written by somebody else? No, I want my story to be unique. I want my story to be written by me, and I am the owner of my story. So that motivation, that courage you need to have to become that unique, different person that you always wanted to be, by achieving your target, by achieving your dream in your life. So to do that, you have to change yourself. You have to be motivated, and you have to have the courage, dedication, and commitment to achieve what you want to be in life, because dreams can be achieved only and only when the right action is taken towards its achievement.
Yes, Dr. Buddhima, I believe this session was so inspiring and so motivating to all the people, not only the youngsters, but also to the elders, to anyone who has a dream, to anyone who wants to change this world. And I believe you mentioned so many things to all of us to make us better people, to serve a better country. Thank you so, so much. We cannot put into words how much thankful we are for your motivation. Even I was motivated, and I believe all of our audience was motivated. And you said that whether being a boy or a girl, we should not hesitate to chase our dreams, because we need to love what we do and do what we love. Thank you so much. And I also love that you said your network is your net worth. That sentence will be stuck in my mind for a long time. Thank you so, so much, Dr. Buddhima. We are so honored to have you. Thank you very much for making our first episode very interesting. And thank you from all the hearts of every single person in the NIBM Gavel Club. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Sure. Thank you so much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our first ever episode of Words of Inspiration. I hope you are inspired and motivated. And not only that, motivated to chase your dreams no matter how far they are. Because Dr. Buddhima has told you that your dreams are what make you a special person. Everyone, have a safe day, have a safe night. And of course, join us next week for the next episode of Words of Inspiration. I'm your host, Sajani Jatma. Stay safe, stay inspired.